All right, I think I'm live. um, Welcome everybody. It's Friday night. Well, it's Friday night where I am. Don't know where it is where you are, but as always, I'm happy to find out where you're viewing from, where you're watching the F1 from, and thank you very much for all you guys that have already tuned in. Got 29 people in here. Welcome to the party. Yeah, my name's Tom. I'm going to be talking about F1 fantasy. It's why you're here. Clearly, all you guys that are super eager and already in the lobby. If you could possibly, if anyone could let me know, like, am I actually just talking to myself or is there anyone in the chat? That'd be great because if there's no one in here, then what am I doing with my life? Is anyone here? I'm just gonna like chill until I can. Oh yeah, okay. We've got a person in the chat. Well, okay, we're good. Okay, cool. Yeah. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Cool. Right. So what are we thinking? I unfortunately was working today, so I only got home at 4:30, which meant I literally got home as FP1 finished. So all I've had to do is look at what's going on from a post viewing state basically. So yeah, I've been looking at the results and very interesting. Ferrari, a lot of talk about Ferrari coming back strong this weekend. And Mercedes maybe not looking quite as strong, but Mercedes are still up there, man. They're only like a tenth or two off, so very interesting. And now reports are that it's raining around the track, so that's going to be interesting to see what's going on. Let's go have a quick look in the chat, see what's going on. Greetings from Portugal. Great to have you here, Diogo. YouTube is currently spamming me with loads of messages. It's really annoying when it does that, but there we go. We've got FF Ramblins, who's completely stuck. That was the least informative FP session outside the review. We can not very helpful, I guess. With just one practice session. But anyway, let's have a look at the results. Actually, let's bring the results up. I'm on. Try and coordinate between two different screens. There we go. That's it. There's the spreadsheet. There's nothing to really look at. Everyone's completed pretty much the same amount of laps, between 20 sort of 30 laps. So no one's had any really major issues, although Lance Stroll did have some sort of problem. And yeah, so the results are in, and looks like Red Bull and Ferrari are kind of back in contention for the pole. We already know that Ferraris are super strong in qualifying. As to whether they can continue that in race pace, then who knows. But yeah, and then we've also got the Mercedes in P5 and P6. So, I was very tempted to have Lewis Hamilton in my team, and I am still tempted. He's got such a good history around Brazil. He's obviously on a massive high, having that honorary citizenship of Brazil. He's good around the track. He's in good form. The temptation is really there to get him in, and that would also enable me to bring in Sebastian Vettel, who's also in good form and also done well in there in P7 in FP1. So let's quickly pop it back to the team. I have been tempted, as I said in my other video, I've been tempted all week really to go something along the lines of this, like Hamilton, Vettel, and turbo driving Carlos Sainz. There's lots of talk about, who's the best turbo driver, and as Carlos Sainz has been confirmed as a 5 grid penalty, I'm kind of thinking he is still the best turbo driver for me. I think Lando Norris hasn't performed well in FP1, and Lando Norris pretty consistent going from practice to quali, as we all know, and so it kind of worries me a little bit. And also Daniel Ricciardo, I believe, was down there in P20, wasn't he? He's down there in P20, so it doesn't bode super well for the McLarens. But obviously, the only way is up, I suppose. You could look at it like that. But yeah, for me, Carlos Sainz is pretty much locked in as a turbo driver, and I've already used the Mega Driver, so I'm not going to be bringing in Max Verstappen. It's kind of tempting, but I just don't think I need to shuffle my team about drastically to cover Max Verstappen. And regardless of what happens, I'm going to lose out to the Mega Drivers anyway, so I'm just not going to worry about Max Verstappen being Mega Drive this week. I'm sure people didn't really worry about it when I was Mega driving Max Verstappen in Japan, and they didn't go crazy trying to cover Verstappen, so I'm just not going to overthink it. So I'm just going to have Red Bull as my constructor. I think Ferrari a perfectly viable option this weekend. But yeah, I'm going to have Red Bull as my constructor. It's just so consistent, so strong. Next week, in Abu Dhabi, they're probably going to be on a quali streak, which is very easy to get. I mean, Ferrari could be on a race streak going into Abu Dhabi, but there's no guarantee they're going to hit that, whereas your quali streak for Red Bull is an easy pickup, really. So yeah, they've actually just hit 40 million as well. Wow, imagine that at the beginning of the season. Nearly half your 100 million budget just all on Red Bull. But so yeah, for me, Red Bull just for the last 2 weeks, or for the last 2 months pretty much, I just haven't moved off Red Bull at all. I think they're just so strong. They look good around this track. We've seen the FP1 results where Perez is on top, Max Verstappen in P3. So for me personally, I've got the budget to go for Red Bull. I'm going to go with it. If you're slightly less of a budget, I would definitely say Ferrari absolutely fine to go with. Carlos Sainz has got that new engine, so there shouldn't be any reliability issues. Leclerc is looking strong within like 4 thousandths of a second of both Verstappen, and sort of sandwiched in between Verstappen and Perez. So the Ferraris definitely look like they're strong. The build up going into this, lots of interviews. I've been listening to lots of interviews from like Sainz and Hamilton and all those drivers up the top there, and all the talk is basically that Mercedes are being concerned all week, and they don't anticipate it being such a strong track as what's happened in Mexico. And conversely, Ferrari and Carlos Sainz and Leclerc have both been saying, they're putting Mexico behind them, and they probably, they're going to excel a lot better around Brazil. So yeah, it makes sense for me potentially this is my current team that I'll put on back on screen. It makes sense for me to maybe just do nothing, and I know that's very unexciting on a live stream, but I could just not make any substitutions and be really fine with this. The one thing I would consider if I was going to go with the double Ferrari boys is to potentially drop Bottas. It's a bit of a free for all down there in the budget option. If I did drop Bottas, it would probably be either for Stroll or potentially Pierre Gasly, or even Alex Albon potentially. I need to keep an eye on the time. I always do this when I'm on live stream, and I need to keep an eye on the time because I need to actually remember I'm not recording, I am live streaming, and there is a deadline in just over half an hour. So if I'm going to make any substitutions, I better not ramble on and miss the deadline. So so I'm considering dropping Bottas. I mean, let's have a quick look at how they did. Let's have a look at the last couple of sprint races. I will get to the chat in a minute. I know there's a few questions in there. I promise I'll get to you, but I just want to have a quick look. Austria. So Bottas in Austria. P11, got 12 points, kind of, yeah. What about the other competition around him? We had Gasly, picked up 8 points, not exciting. Stroll, 14 points, steady, unexciting. So yeah, nothing really to split them there. And then Imola was the other sprint race. Bottas absolutely smashed it. That was right at the beginning of the season, though, when Alfa Romeo were actually really, really strong and competitive, and they've sort of tailed off since then. But yeah, 34 points. If Bottas repeated that this week, would be incredible for anyone who is brave enough to own Bottas. Who else we got now? Tsunoda did pretty well there, 30 points. Gasly, where's Gasly at? Not great. Albon did all right considering, he had that DNF in qualifying, crawled back to P18 and then all the way up to P11. So yeah, Albon's done kind of okay in a couple of sprint races. So yeah, that final position for me is kind of a bit whatever. Like, Bottas is probably going to qualify all right and do okay in the sprint, but then he's at risk of like falling back and losing points in the race. Whereas Albon is kind of the opposite of that, probably not going to qualify very well, but then he might push forward, especially, those couple of long straights in Brazil. The Williams, we all know, is a nice slippery car, and that could really do well down there. So I could be tempted to just shove in Alex Albon. So yeah, this I think I'm leaning more towards going the Ferrari, but anyway, we'll get back to that in just a minute. Let's have a quick look in the chat, because I've got loads of questions, and I'm sorry that I've not been paying attention, but let's have a look what's going on. Who's in there? McLaren didn't do any soft running. You might be. Sorry, I'm just reading. Excessively low considering the strength of the car. Underneath the performance last time. Yeah, possibly. So McLaren's maybe stronger than what we see from FP1. So maybe Lando Norris is a bit more of an option, and particularly anyone who's on a little bit more of a budget, and they don't want to go for Carlos Sainz, particularly with that 5-place grid penalty. Although 5 places isn't the end of the world, but with Mercedes being more competitive, that means Carlos Sainz will have to fight his way through George Russell and Lewis Hamilton in a more competitive car. So it does kind of put Sainz a little bit on the back burner. So certainly, if if you think Norris is going to do well, then certainly could be turbo driving him. It all depends on the budget and kind of your gut feeling, really, because at the end of the day, Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris predicted points are very similar. They're probably, as long as there's no collisions and DNFs, they're probably going to score sort of 25, 30 points, if all things go really well. It depends how strong the McLaren turns out to be, but we have no more information to go off because there's no more practice sessions. So yeah, if you want a budget and you want to take a punt, Carlos Sainz, Lando Norris, he's on that quali streak. He should be beating Daniel Ricciardo, who's down in P20 after FP1. And, Lando Norris has absolutely smashed Ricciardo out of the water for the last 2 seasons, basically. So I think Lando Norris is a great shout. We got Enrico here with a couple of team options here. Ferrari, Bottas, Max Mega Driver. Oh, I'm envious of you. Perez, Vettel, and Alonso. I mean, that team sounds strong. Or Ferrari, Bottas, Mega Driver, Sainz, Turbo Driver. Or who's the Turbo Driver in the first team? That is the issue. I suppose you're going to have to Turbo Drive Alonso, I guess, which doesn't particularly excite me. The Alpines weren't super strong in FP1. So maybe I'd lean towards Team B, Enrico, because you can turbo drive Sainz, who, although I've touched on, might have a little bit of a tough time. In general, the Ferraris look strong, and the 5 pace grid penalty is a lot less severe than obviously a 10 or a back of the grid penalty. So I think Sainz is still fine as a turbo driver, and I much prefer him over someone like Alonso or Bottas, especially. So maybe a first team. Another question here from 43% Gaming. Who's this guy? Message retracting all over my chat. I've completely lost where I am now. Hi Tom, would you choose Leclerc, Bottas, or Hamilton, Vettel? That is that is literally the decision I have to make. Basically, that is what I've been toying with all week, and I haven't quite made my mind up. But I'm currently slightly leaning towards Leclerc, Bottas, or maybe Leclerc, ex driver. It doesn't have to be Bottas. Could be Stroll, Gasly, Albon, etc. Vettel's certainly tempting, P7 and FP1 and great form, consistent. Throw back to the spreadsheet very quickly. I know I touched on this on my last video. If we just go back to the main page and have a look at my favourite column of the entire spreadsheet, we see both the Aston Martins down here. Super strong at gaining positions because they just don't DNF. They're very reliable. Their race pace is clearly better than their qualifying pace, and that's great for fantasy assets. Vettel is a great option, I think, this week. So yeah, if you have the funds, if I could actually get Vettel in here and go with a team like this, I'd be really happy. But I'm actually 1 million short, which is very frustrating. And I don't want to drop anyone. Like the only other person I would drop is potentially Alonso, but then I'm stuck with 8.9. That drops me down to someone like Gasly and Bottas. But I do like Alonso. He's just driving out of his skin. And although Alpine have had some reliability issues, I don't think there's been no news whatsoever, as far as I'm aware, of Alonso taking the penalty. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is Alonso taking a penalty? I've heard nothing. So I'm quite happy to just keep Alonso in there. So yeah, to answer your question, I think I'm leaning towards more heavy on the Ferrari build, but it's a bit scary. Another question, Vettel or Alonso? Yeah, so everyone's sort of asking the same sort of questions that are already on my mind as well. If you had to pick between Vettel and Alonso, I think I'd still go with Alonso. I know he's had a lot of some unlucky situations this season, but yeah, I think if the choice is between Vettel or Alonso, I'd lean towards Alonso a little bit. But Vettel, like I've just said, is a great choice, I think, going into this weekend if your budget allows for him. That's another temptation, another reason to bring in Lewis Hamilton for me is it enables me to afford Vettel over the likes of, it brings me up out of the gutter, so I don't have to pick someone like Bottas or Stroll or whatever, and Vettel just looks nice and shiny and clean in my team. I like this team. I really like this team, and I'm still very tempted by it. And having Lewis Hamilton in my team is definitely, it'll give me that comfort. I'll just feel safe all weekend, particularly with qualifying starting in half an hour. I've got the whole weekend of stress if I have double Ferrari in my team, so there is a definite strong temptation to go with Hamilton. However, I do think performance-wise, this is about performance and fantasy points, not about my stress levels, so I should perhaps just go for Leclerc. Yeah, let's have a look back in the chat again, because I think I've completely lost track. I think there's loads of people in here. I'm sorry if I've not answered your question, but it's hard to keep up with. Let's pick some random stuff out here. Russell and Alonso or Leclerc and Bottas is my dilemma. Okay, I see what you mean. So Russell and Alonso or Leclerc and Bottas. If that's your choice, yeah, I'd personally probably go Leclerc, Bottas. And again, that's kind of me biased. You're going to get the same answer whenever you ask me these questions because, that's my opinion, that Leclerc and Bottas might maybe slightly edge that for me. Oh my goodness, I'm losing track of where I am. Who we got? Do Bottas and Guan Yu Zhou have a 5-pace grid penalty? I believe not. I think they did make some changes. I don't know exactly what changes they made. Some sort of engine change, but I do believe it was within compliance of the regulations and everything. So as far as I'm aware, again, please correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, but I do not think that Bottas or Guan Yu Zhou have any penalty. I think it is just Carlos Sainz as far as I'm aware. But like I say, I was at work earlier and I missed FP1, so it's a real bummer that I haven't really been super up to date with what's going on in FP1, but just going off the results and everything there. Luke Goodchild, you only have 107 million. What have you been doing all season, Luke? What have you been doing? Have you been too distracted to keep up with your budget? Well, I don't know what you can do with 107 million in this current economic state of F1 fantasy. Like Red Bull take up like a third of that straight off the bat, or more than a third of that straight off the bat, so I'd be very interested to know what team you're going with, Luke, with 107 million. Good luck with that one. I'm sure you can still have a good team. It's not like the be all and end all, but it's a difference between like having a Hamilton or having a Tsunoda. That's quite a big difference, to be fair. Who to pick below 6.5 million? Well, let's have a look at the 6.5 million and below drivers. Oh, for me, yeah, definitely. Looking at Alex Albon there, sat at 6.3. He's probably going to go down to his 99%. Why couldn't he have just ticked down that one more percent before people were able to buy him in? That's a bit frustrating because you're almost certainly going to lose a bit of budget going into Abu Dhabi, but it's whatever. The budget doesn't really matter after the next deadline. So yeah, for me personally, I think Alex Albon would be a great choice. We've already looked at the spreadsheet and seen how he did last couple of sprint races. He's done well. Alex Albon for me is just a very good driver. He beats Latifi on a consistent basis. The Williams look pretty decent. Like even Latifi was like, what was he, P16? I've lost it now. Let's go back onto here. Where is he? P17. Latifi P17 in FP1, and Albon all the way up in P12. So the Williams definitely looks, I'd say, more competitive around here than around other tracks. And Albon just is a good, consistent driver. He has that knack of just sneaking in and scoring some points. And, he could come away with 20 points or so in this sprint race weekend. So we've also got to consider like Mick Schumacher in the budget option. Mick Schumacher in the top 10 in FP1. Fighting for his life. Not literally fighting for his life, but fighting for his seat. Lots of talk about Hulkenberg taking over for him. So Schumacher will certainly be keen to impress. So Schumacher could be a good option as well. Daniel Ricciardo, not particularly interested in him personally, although he had a good race last time out. Just don't think he's a particularly great option, maybe. I think he got a little bit fortunate around Mexico with the strategy. He stayed out a long time, stuck on the softs, and kind of just fell into a good strategy. No one really know what to do around Mexico, and it just like, if you were lucky enough to go like medium soft, you just got paid basically, and that's what happened to Ricciardo. So I'm not going to get overexcited with what's happened with Ricciardo in the last race, and then past that, Latifi, Tsunoda, Guan Yu Zhou, none of them excite me. If you're desperate, if you've got like 4.5 million, then maybe Tsunoda. So I think Tsunoda did quite well. In fact, I've got this is last year's results. I think Tsunoda, where did he come? Am I imagining things, or is this, where's Tsunoda? Can't even see him. Oh, there he is, P15. Okay, not so great then. That was in the race. In the sprint, where did Tsunoda come? This is last year. P15 as well, isn't it? Go anyway. It's not particularly exciting. And then in FP1, Tsunoda, P19, just avoid. Avoid. If you can avoid Latifi, Tsunoda, Guan Yu Zhou, I would. If I had to pick one of them, like, if you're going to twist my arm about it, probably go for Guan Yu Zhou, or maybe Latifi, because he's probably going to be right at the back, and then the Williams will be difficult to overtake anyway. Like, what if he gets ahead of people? The Williams is strong in a straight line. It might be tricky to overtake, and then if anyone DNFs ahead of him, maybe Latifi can accumulate a few points from positions gained. So maybe Latifi if you're desperate. But overall, I'd say Alex Albon in that category. And I've just spent like 5 minutes answering one question. No wonder I can't keep up with chat. I'm sorry. Let me quickly continue on with this. I still have to use my Mega Driver. Should I go over Verstappen? 100%. 100%. I wouldn't even consider. I mean, you could consider Perez. You could consider Perez from the Mega Driver. He is on that race streak. So having a race streak on top of the sprint points, like Perez could be absolutely singing and dancing come the end of the weekend. And he was top in FP1. So if you really like need to jump up, you want to take a little bit of a risk, a little bit of a punt, and you've still got that Mega Driver. Do you go Sergio Perez? What do you think? I mean, Max Verstappen seems like the safest option, but it's also kind of boring. But yeah, Perez. For me, it's between Perez and Verstappen. I mean, most likely Verstappen, but Perez being on that race streak is tempting. That's 10 points, and if you Mega Drive him, that's 30 points. That's good stuff. What else have we got on here? No, not anything either. Planning on Alonso burning me one last time. I hear you, Michael. Alonso promises so much, doesn't he? He promises points week in, week out, and then it just doesn't quite come together. Francisco, hi Tom. If no Red Bull is possible, would you choose Ferrari or Mercedes? For me, this week, with what's going on, with all the chit chat around what's going on and what's happened in FP1, Ferrari. Definitely Ferrari I would choose. Although obviously Mercedes are more reliable, more consistent. Ferrari on that qualifying streak, so it's an easy 5 points. I just think that in general Ferrari should be quite good, and they could be on a race streak going into Abu Dhabi, so it could save you a substitution if you were tempted to bring them in next week. I think Ferrari are a pretty good pick. I can't believe I'm saying this. You know, a couple of months ago, I was like, I never want to see a Ferrari driver in my team ever again. And now I'm just like, yeah, Ferrari are fine. How fickle we fantasy managers are. So, who else we got in here? I got so many questions about how far up of the channel. I've completely lost track. Let's go. I'm going to scroll down and see what the most recent messages are, and let's see what's going on. Would you rather choose Max, MG? What does that mean? Mega driver, I guess. Perez, Alonso, turbo driver, Bottas, Vettel, or Max, Perez, Sainz, Bottas and Zhou. Oh man, to be honest, I don't really like either of those teams. Can you do anything better with your budget? If I had to pick one of those teams, it's kind of like, I don't know, neither of them look too exciting. Rethink Diogo. Who else we got in here? Bottas or Stroll? Again, that is something I am debating, because if we go back, this is currently my team at the moment. I am still thinking about, do I want Leclerc, do I want Hamilton? I'm just going to pop onto Twitter for 2 seconds, see if there's any further updates. If anyone has any more updates as well, because, you know, whilst I've been chatting away here, I go straight onto Twitter, and the first thing I see is a tweet from Formula One of Lewis Hamilton bumping around and locking up. Okay, let's not look at that anymore. Right, what's the weather doing? As far as I'm aware, it's raining. I don't have the TV on at the moment. I think Sky probably started their show already. So maybe people with the TV on can tell me what the weather's doing, because I'm sure all they'll be talking about is the weather, and I'm getting all excited about it. Anyone with penalties this weekend? Yep, if you just joined, I do believe it's just Carlos Sainz with a 5-place grid penalty. And how that's going to work is he'll qualify, go into the sprint race, and then going into the Grand Prix, he'll get that penalty applied. So say he finishes the sprint race, I don't know, P3, he's going to start the Grand Prix P8. So yeah. It's not the biggest penalty in the world, 5 places, and that's why I'm still kind of happy to have him as my turbo driver. Also, you've got to consider that, like, Lando Norris has been ill for the last 24 hours. Is he definitely up to standards right now? I know he's been ill quite a lot this year, but yeah. What else have we got in here? Oh, Luke's back in the chat. I think with my limited budget, I'll go Verstappen, Vettel, Sainz, Schumacher, Albon with Mercedes. Okay, yeah. I mean, Mercedes, they would be my third choice as a constructor. But I think they're definitely very consistent. We know George and Lewis are just very consistent in a very reliable car, and I think that's fine. If you've got a lower budget, can't afford the Red Bulls, that's absolutely fine. You've got coverage there from Carlos Sainz in terms of Ferrari, so you'll probably be hoping for a Leclerc DNF. Is him still? I don't know who you're talking about, Pietro. I'm sorry. Can you put the driver's name in, because I don't know who you're referring to in terms of the turbo driver. We've got just over 20 minutes. I need to actually make a decision on what I'm doing here, don't I? Yeah, has anyone got any more up-to-date news as to what is going on? Because I'm stuck here talking to myself, and I don't know what's going on in the real world. Turbo driver Norris or turbo driver Alonso? If you've got both of them in your team, Lorenzo, then I would go turbo driver Norris. Even though McLaren haven't looked great, Norris just has a way of just accumulating points and just sticking it in Q3 and then maintaining that position. And he's on that quali streak. Alonso's had a lot of bad luck, so yeah, I think I'd lean slightly towards Norris over Alonso there. Are you talking about Carlos Sainz? I already answered the question. Okay, that's great. Leclerc or Hamilton, thanks for the stream. Thank you for joining the stream. Leclerc or Hamilton, that is literally what I need to decide within the next 20 minutes, and maybe even sooner, because I don't want to like crash the site crash. And I know there's been a lot of issues in the FPL world of the site crashing right up before the deadline, and that's the last thing I want. So I need to have a little think. Let me have a glass of water, have a sip of water, and I'll think, do I want Leclerc and Bottas / someone else down that category, or do I want Lewis Hamilton and Vettel? That is basically what it boils down to for me. What am I going to do? Let's have a quick look at what the team looks like again with Lewis Hamilton in there. Frees up lots of money. And I mean, I could even go like double. Oops. Hello, Vettel. I could even go double Alpine if I really wanted. But oh no, I can't. I really can't do that because I'm actually 500,000 short. I can't do maths apparently. But yeah, so I would go with Sebastian Vettel. It's definitely, for me personally, I'm going with either this team or the clerk with whoever underneath there. I mean, who is the best pick? I think I'm gonna go. I think if I go with the Leclerc build, even though I've got the budget for Stroll, Bottas, Gasly. Gasly is certainly an interesting one actually. Gasly, I think is that's what I was thinking of earlier. who did well last year. I was thinking Tsunoda did well last year, but it's not. It was the other AlphaTauri. We look at this is from 2021 again. We look at where Gasly came. He came P7 in the Grand Prix, very impressive in the AlphaTauri. In the sprint, he came P8, also very impressive. And in qualifying, he came P4. Can you believe? P4. So yeah, Pierre Gasly certainly some pedigree from last year going into this race. So I could certainly see if we revert this once again, go back to Gasly. Do I want to take a bit of a risk on Gasly? Just take a bit of a punt? I say it's a bit of a punt. He's 23% owned. That's actually surprisingly quite high. And you look at Lance Stroll, who is really still under the radar from the masses, is only owned by 8%. So maybe Lance Stroll is the right pick, and maybe that is a bit more of a differential pick. Although I don't. Does anyone have any information? Can you help me out? Does anyone have any information regarding Lance Stroll and his problem? Because I know he was complaining on the radio about something major issue with his car. Does anyone know if Lance Stroll is actually okay to go ahead with qualifying and everything? Do I need to be worried if I do go with Lance Stroll? Does anyone have that information available? Let's go back to the chat. Keith, hello, welcome to the chat. Keith is my competitor in my mini league, along with my brother. I've got a little mini league with just Keith, who's my friend and my brother. And Keith is currently about 100 points behind me. Are you, Keith? Something like that. So yeah, it'd be interesting to know what you're going with. And I'm giving up all the information of what I'm going to be picking here, so you can just pick like something different to me and then overtake me probably. Yeah, I'll probably. Probably. I just don't know. I'm torn. Do I go with Gasly? It seems like a bit of a random, like almost like it just seems a bit random. Don't know. The student in Africa, thanks for joining very much. I've seen your name several times on my videos through this year. Leclerc versus Hamilton. Hamilton was slipping a lot today. Leclerc looked solid. Thank you very much for the information. It's those little nuggets of information that you just don't get by looking at results basically. So yeah, I'm kind of bummed that I missed the actual footage from FP1, but Hamilton slipping around, complaining a little bit about his rears from what I understand. Leclerc looking solid. I mean, yeah, P2 by 0.004 of a second. That's pretty solid. So maybe I will go with a team like this and leave Hamilton. There you go, Keith. You can go with Hamilton. I hope Leclerc DNFs and then you overtake me. Simple as that. Easy win. Right, who do I want as my budget option here? Help me out. Who are we going to go with the budget option? Do we go Stroll? Do we go Gasly? Do I just stay with Bottas? Do I go Albon? I think those are my 4 options. Oh my goodness. No one's on a streak going into Abu Dhabi. So there's no worry about that. I don't care about streaks. I'm kind of tempted by Albon. It seems wrong. It seems counterintuitive picking the driver that's the cheapest. But at the end of the day, it's not about how cheap they are. It's about how well you expect them to do. And I'm just tempted. It just feels wrong, but I'm tempted to go with Albon. Does it seem wrong to you? I don't know. I've got about 15 minutes left to decide. What else we got in the chat? Because I'm sure we've got some people. Stroll. Michael says Stroll. Is that okay? Potentially. I'm not sure if did anyone else comment on the fact that Stroll's issues? Don't know. Is it worth taking a 10-point penalty to switch Mercedes to Ferrari? Probably not. Maybe they're on the quality streak, which kind of makes up for it a little bit. And yeah, maybe. I just hate taking the 10 points. I think actually all season I've not taken a single 10-point hit. We're in the penultimate race and I've not taken a single 10-point hit all season, which may have been wrong a couple of races ago when there was that big debate about Alonso and Norris, but in the end of the day, I think it cost me 1 point by not taking the -10. The rest of the season, it's definitely helped me out by not going over the 3 sub limit. One last time, I keep typing it wrong. Vettel and Tsunoda, or Stroll and Albon. For me, the big issue with the Vettel Tsunoda build is Tsunoda. He's just DNF'd so many times this season. He's very inconsistent. I think he's a decent driver. I don't know what's going on with him. It just scares me. I would not want him in my team, and I'd much rather have the consistency of Stroll and Albon. Stroll and Albon are like the kings of consistency, really. So yeah, I'd probably go with them. Schumacher looked pretty good and he's fighting for a seat. Yeah, and tempting, possibly, especially if it's raining. We know the hazards do pretty well in those cooler, wet conditions, so that's definitely a consideration. Although I do think that the race on Sunday is probably going to be dry, from what I understand. And therefore, Schumacher's done well in the qualifying and the sprint. He's very susceptible to falling back and therefore getting those -2s for each position, falling back. So it's a bit of a, whereas the appeal of Stroll and Albon is like they're probably going to be near the back anyway, and then in the race they can potentially push forward. particularly past the DNF. So yeah, we've got what, 15 minutes left. 15 minutes left. Is everyone more or less locked in with their teams? Because yeah, I think I am decided that Hamilton, as much as I would love to have him, as much as I'd feel cozy having him in my team, I just think the Clerk, performance-wise, is just there. Yeah, I think the Ferraris are back this weekend, and it's a tough one, but yeah. Right, let's have a quick look at the chat. Bottas qualifies too high and hence is prone to lose and overtake points. That's exactly why I'd want to get rid of him. That is why, yeah. I mean, I said it's between Stroll, Gasly, Bottas, and Albon for me, and I'm kind of leaning away from Bottas. I mean, I had him in Mexico, and he qualified so strongly. What was he, P5? No, P6 in Mexico, I think. But look at what he came away with, 7 points, because he just fell away. He lost a few positions in the race, and in contrary to that, back in Imola, he scored 34 points in the sprint race. So, he is capable of getting a good position and holding it. But is that Alfa Romeo good enough in the race at the moment? It's really tapered off as the season's gone on. What else we got going on here? Oh, we've got Glenn. Hi, Glenn. Locked in with Ferrari, Verstappen, Perez, Sainz, Norris, Latifi. Pretty strong. Obviously, you've got Latifi in there, which isn't ideal. But I do think, if you're going deep into the budget of Verstappen in your team, then Latifi's probably the best of the bad bunch, to be honest. So yeah, team looks strong. What else we got? We'll never see another water rocket video. Yeah, I did upload a random tutorial on how to make a water rocket like 10 years ago. So interesting that you've managed to find that on my channel. Yeah, lots of questions revolving around exactly where I'm stuck on at the moment. And that is like Bottas, Vettel, Alonso, Stroll. That's literally the conundrum I find myself in at the moment. I need to have a little think. Do I want Lance Stroll? I feel like Stroll is probably the sensible option. But again, no one said anything as far as I can see about what's actually gone on with Stroll and his car. Is Stroll okay to start the race? I mean, maybe that's actually a better thing if he doesn't qualify very well and then has those overtake points. But I've lost my mouse cursor. Where's my mouse gone? There it is. Right. I'm kind of tempted by Albon. Let me have a quick look at the FP thingamajiggy. Where is he? Albon P12, Latifi 17 gives me some confidence with that. And Albon's done well in the last couple of sprint races, scoring around 14 points. I think he might have scored 14 points in both the sprint races actually. Let's have a quick look. If we go, oops, I've just got rid of him. Let's have a quick look. So we've got Austria 14 points, and then Imola, 14 points. So it's nothing exciting, but for the budget option in my team, if he scores 14 points, then I'm happy. Let's have a quick look and see what other people's opinions are starting to flood in now. Water rocket video is better than F1 fantasy. Thanks. I don't know what that says about my F1 fantasy videos. Maybe I should just give up. I think you should avoid Stroll either way. Yeah, maybe. I mean, he's done all right, though. He's done all right recently. Although he has had a couple of poor races, actually, hasn't he? In the last 2 races, 8 and -1. But then before that, 12, 26, and trouble in Monza. And then, pretty consistent. Maybe it is time to take a punt. Maybe we go on the historic data of Gasly just doing well last season and looking all right. Let's quickly throw it back. Where was he? P10. He's probably going to beat Tsunoda, although it's been a little bit hit and miss. Let's go back to the spreadsheet quickly. I need to make a decision on this because I'm running out of time. I've got 10 minutes to make this decision. Where's Gasly? 12 races he's beaten Tsunoda in to 8, and then 13 races in the race to 7. So he's out racing. That's important that he's out racing Tsunoda the majority of the time. Although qualifying, Tsunoda looks like he's doing all right. But a lot of those race wins for Gasly might come from all the random DNFs that Tsunoda's been having. And AlphaTauri have had some issues with reliability. But yeah, Gasly's an interesting one. I'm just interested in Gasly. I'm kind of narrowing it down potentially to Gasly on Albon. Percentage-wise, they're owned almost exactly the same, 20% and 23%. Is anyone else tempted by Gasly? Anyone out there? Anyone in the F1 fantasy world? Is anyone tempted by Gasly? Because is it just me? Am I just trying to be different for the sake of being different, or should I just stick Albon in there and just forget about it? Oh my god, the chat's gone mad. Right, Albon is better than Stroll. Stroll can lose out. Vettel, likely. Yeah, Albon's very likely to get those extra 5 points from out qualifying, out racing Latifi. So that's a good point there. Prahadesh, I think Albon is a strong option. He brought 17 points in Mexico and looks strong in the straight line speed. Yeah, I mean that's another big reason for having Albon. I think the Williams could be difficult to overtake. Think back to Spa when they had those big long straights. Albon was difficult to overtake. And I think it could be a similar story. I know Sector 2 is very tight and twisty, and the Williams will probably struggle around there. But in Sector 1, Sector 3, I think Albon could be really difficult to overtake. And that's where most of the overtaking opportunities are, other than on strategy and random weather conditions. So Albon definitely could be a good one. Yeah, you might have talked me back into Albon. It's very, very tight here. Shall we... let's try if I can work out how to do a poll, because I haven't done a poll for ages. Maybe I can... start a poll. Here we go. Why is it? It doesn't. Right. For some reason, it doesn't let me. Oh, there we go. I'm gonna do a poll. Bear with me a minute. Who is the best budget? Ready? Go. We've got like 6 minutes of this. What do you guys think? Because this is where it comes down to me. I think I've narrowed it down personally. Gasly or Albon. I know it's kind of a minor thing in the big grand scheme of things. I'm happy with everyone else. For me, last minute advice: Red Bull are the best constructor. Then it's Ferrari for me. Then it's Mercedes. That's my order for that. Perez is a must-have. Been on that race streak. Red Bull looks strong. I think Perez is just an absolute given in our teams. Turbo driver options for me is Carlos Sainz or Norris, or if you're really struggling for budget, maybe Alonso. For me, I'm going for Sainz. Past that, it's kind of between Leclerc and Hamilton. I think I've just finally decided to go Leclerc over Hamilton, even though I think Hamilton is still a very good pick. Are Ferrari going to have that race pace? Are they going to struggle with the degradation? Don't know. They have struggled a little bit in the last few races with tyre degradation, haven't they? So maybe Mercedes are just... But then we've got the whole issue of Mercedes sliding around, a bit of a bumpy track, and yeah. So I think Leclerc's fine. Alonso is just sitting there losing team budget, but I don't care because he's just not going anywhere. I think Alonso's still a great pick. He's driving fantastic. And then it just boils down to Albon versus the rest, Got a lot of people in the poll. Whoops. Why can't I see the poll? There we go. Oh, not many people going for Gasly. People don't like my punt. 44 votes and 77% currently in favour of Albon. Okay. Yeah, I've got 7 minutes. I need to lock this in one way or another. Am I going to Albon? I think, I think it's right, because I think Gasly is likely to be the similar situation to Bottas, where he's more susceptible to dropping back and losing points, and there's no guarantee he's going to beat Tsunoda. Alex Albon is much more likely to get those teammate points, and then also progress forward, which is where those fantasy points are at as a budget option. So that leaves me at 3.1 million in the bank, and that's absolutely fine. I mean, can I do anything with Alonso with 3.1 million? Well, I could even potentially actually get rid of Alonso for Vettel. Now we could look at a team like this instead, but do I want to do something like that? That's actually kind of tempting as well, to be honest. Now I've just, with 6 minutes to go, I've decided on a different team completely. No, I don't think I'm going to do that. As much as I think Vettel is a great option, if it's a straight up choice between him and Alonso, and I can keep Alonso in there, I think Alonso is just, I'm getting ahead of myself there. Right, let's end the poll there. So the results are in. Albon 74%. After 55 people voted. Thanks very much. I think we're going with Albon. I think I'm going with Albon, not just because 3/4 of you guys said to pick him, but I think I've talked myself into it with the whole fact that I think he's going to be, qualifying and sprint maybe further back and then can propel forward in the race, whereas the other options in that price bracket may be better in the qualifying and the sprint, but the big points come during the race, and they're more likely the likes of Bottas, Gasly, Stroll, or maybe not Stroll to some extent, but Bottas and Gasly are more likely to fall back, and Albon's more likely to go forward and get those extra points. So yeah, I think we're going to go with Albon. I think I'm going to lock this in. Sainz is the turbo driver, Red Bull constructor for that Max Verstappen coverage, Perez on the double up there on the race streak, Leclerc over Hamilton, very tough choice, something I've been toying with all week. I'm going to go with Leclerc. Alonso is just Fernando Alonso. He's now sub 10 million, which I find absolutely criminal from Play On. What are you doing? He's just an unlucky driver. He's going to get those points. He's due a big weekend, and I think this could be it. Alpine fighting for McLaren for that P4 in the championship. Alonso is in the team, and I think I'm going with Albon. I've got 5 minutes to decide. Just a quick look here. Good luck, Tom. Thank you for your videos. I've viewed them since the beginning of the season. Thank you very much, Diogo. Thank you, everyone, very much for all the support throughout the season. We've got one more deadline to go through after this. And thank you very much for joining me on this crazy journey of F1 Fantasy in 2022, and I will be doing it again next year because I'm just enjoying it. I enjoy the interaction. I enjoy making the videos, putting them together, and sharing my thoughts with you and hearing some feedback. So yeah, it's really, really good fun. Yeah, I need to actually click save. I can't believe I'm actually going for Albon when I can afford better. It just feels wrong, but Albon, you know, he's one of those drivers I just kind of feel safe with, so I'm going to save the team. I'm going to save the team before there's a website crashes, and there he goes. Bottas is out. Bottas says goodbye after losing me 0.6 million. Albon's in, who's also going to lose me another 0.1 million as soon as the deadline ticks over. But that is going to be my team. And those are my other two teams. The team 2 here, Parc Ferme, haven't changed it all season. Just wanted to see how well I was doing. They're 700 points behind my main team. So it does show making substitutions helps. And then just ignore team 3 because that is the super budget people, which I don't even listen to. So please set up a Pop Hamman F1 league next season. Yeah, I do have a league, which I started really late. I started it in September. September? What am I talking about? Spain. I just thought of Spain for September. But no, I started it back in Spain. Yeah, if anyone's got any other random questions, I've saved my team now. I'm locked in with that team. If anyone's got any random questions regarding F1 Fantasy or YouTube or whatever, I'm happy to stick around for a few more minutes before I go and watch the qualifying. Yeah, if anyone's got any more suggestions as well for how to improve, if anyone's got any improvement suggestions for my videos, live streams, whatever you want, basically. What do you want to see more of, or what do you want to see less of? Are you just happy with how things are going? Thoughts on Ocon? Fine. I think Ocon's a fine driver. He doesn't seem to do particularly well recently in qualifying, but that actually benefits him quite well in the race. So I still personally prefer Alonso over Ocon, even though Alonso's been consistently unlucky, but yeah. What is my rank? My rank is 1.5k, so just hovering outside the top 1,000 at the moment, and anticipating a bit of a drop because there'll be quite a few people mega driving Max Verstappen this weekend, and providing Max Verstappen does well, I anticipate I'll drop back probably a few thousand. I don't know exactly, but you know, if it goes well, maybe I'll luck box my way into the top 1,000, which would be fantastic. But deadline is in 2 minutes. This is your last warning. If you haven't locked in your team, do it now because you've got 2 minutes until the deadline. Any other random questions? I went with Hamilton over Leclerc. I knew you would. I knew you would, Keith. All right, the battle is on. Come on, Leclerc. Come on, Leclerc. Lewis, you're going down. I don't care if you're now Brazilian and you've got a new home race. You're going down because I need to win my mini league. Light Tech, looking forward to watching you next season. Thank you very much. Looking forward to having you here. How far through the field can Norris come? Well, it depends where he qualifies, really, doesn't it? Norris kind of qualifies and then just kind of sits there, doesn't really move. What I've found with Norris so far this season. Max versus Perez, yeah, the Mega Driver. I think the safe, sensible option is to put the Mega Driver and Max Verstappen, but Perez been on that race streak is certainly a differential, which could definitely pay off. If you need to gain a load of points, then stick that Mega Driver on Perez because it could, you know, if you're not that bothered about your rank, but you want to potentially do that massive jump, I think Mega Driver on Perez is actually a fantastic differential. So you've got less than a minute to lock it in. You've got 45 seconds actually. Well, probably less than that because there's a like 5 to 10 second delay on this thingy. Thank you very much everybody for joining. I think unless anyone's got any more questions or anything, then I think we'll probably wrap it up there. And then we've got one more deadline to get through in a week's time. And it is a week's time, isn't it? I'm not going crazy here. It's next week in Abu Dhabi. Thank you for being watching since 10 subs. I think I had 10 subs about 15 years ago. But yeah, thank you very much everybody for watching. It's been another fun live stream session. I'm sorry it was a bit boring in terms of my substitutions. I literally just went Bottas to Albon and that is my team. I'm sorry it's not the most exciting thing in the world. But yeah, now Keith might be out the chat. I'll quickly put Hamilton back in and lock him out so he can't actually like overtake me on the mini league. No. Yeah, thank you very much for watching everybody. I think I'm going to go wrap it up, and I think the deadline has just passed as well. Yeah, deadline has passed. Teams are now locked. Let's go and enjoy the qualifying. I hope your teams do well, and I'll be back in a few days' time for my thoughts on the final race of the 2022 season, trying to cement those ranks in the global league and secure the mini league. So we're here for the chat as much as your picks. Great job. Thank you very much, Drizzy. Always making informative comments on my videos. So thank you very much. Jess A, thank you very much for joining as well. Thank you, everybody. If you can spare 2 seconds to click like, that would be fantastic. Thank you very much. Suhel, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Yeah, thanks very much. I'm just going to hang around here for like 30 seconds and I'm going to end the stream just in case there's any last last second messages, and then I'm going to end it. Anyone got any plans for Friday night, weekend? Anything going on? I'm taking my daughter to dance class tomorrow, taking her swimming on Sunday. That is the life of a dad. And then in between that, obviously watching the F1. That is my weekend planned. Yeah, all right then. I think that wraps it up. I think everyone is leaving the premises, so to speak. Locked in Mercedes constructor. Or good luck. I don't have any Mercedes in my team, and yeah, I think they're a good option. Good option this week, but I think for me, Ferrari just edged it. That's why I've gone with that team. So yeah, I guess Q1 is probably just about getting underway. So I'm probably going to head off now and have a look at the TV. Basically, going to go stare at the TV for an hour. Thanks very much for watching. I'm going to sign off now. Catch you all in a few days. Good luck, everybody. Your teams are locked in now. Just enjoy it. Don't get stressed out with what if one of your drivers, your differential picks, whether has an engine blow up. Don't get stressed out. Don't get upset. It happens. Just enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the F1, and hopefully you get a good points at the end of it. But don't stress out. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you all in a few days. Bye bye, everybody. Have a good weekend.